ask Chuck.
Enjoying the podcast as always. Something I noticed is that the election coverage shows that Andrew Cuomo outperformed Zohran Mamdani among voters without a college degree. NBC reports that Mamdani won only 26% of white non-college graduates, and similar trends appeared in the gubernatorial races. Despite overall wins, Democrats still seem to underperform among non-college educated voters, raising concerns about their strength in states like Michigan and Nebraska. Is it fair to interpret these results as evidence that Democrats have not yet repaired their image with working-class white voters? If so, what steps should the party take to become more competitive with this group? Thanks, Dan. Well, look, hopefully you're listening to the answer to this question after you've heard the interview with Adam Gentleson. It's exactly what he's trying to do, which is how do you get, the irony is, I think Democrats have struggled culturally to connect to this group of voters for some time. They used to be sort of Democrats, and they were just sort of Democrats, and they were culturally Democrats and the Democrats they thought economically were looking out for them as it is. That explains why there were 2 U.S. senators in Nebraska for not an insignificant period of time, and almost always one, a state that is the birthplace of the perhaps the original prairie populist, William Jennings Bryan, right? So I think you're right to point out those things. I think this is, to me, the great danger of the midterms on the Democrats, which is they could do as mediocre as they did with non-college educated whites in the midterms, because they won't turn out in the same numbers that they'll turn out in a presidential election, giving Democrats an opportunity because they'll sort of over-index on their more frequent voters and college education voters, and they will be a bigger share of the electorate in a midterm than they will be in a general. It's why, had there been a presidential like turnout in, say, Virginia, maybe she only wins by 8 instead of 15. And maybe if you got, although, to me, the New Jersey thing is why I believe this was a Trump referendum, when you have the Republican candidate actually getting more raw vote than he got 4 years earlier, but he lost by 10 percentage points more than when he lost before. Shows you there are a whole bunch of voters that didn't show up 4 years ago that decided to show up. But you didn't have an equal, basically a whole bunch of presidential only voters decided to show up in a governor's race on the Democratic side. You didn't get the presidential only voters to suddenly show up in a governor's race on the Republican side. And then you can see how lopsided things can get. I think the biggest, the potential worst outcome for the Democrats' hopes in 2028, weirdly, will be thinking that if they win the House and the Senate, that they've solved their problems, and it's they're going to just coast to the presidency, like what happened in 2006 going into 2008. And I would just say it's very possible they could have a midterm revival. 86 midterms were terrific midterms for the Democrats. And then after getting clobbered in 84, and then they go and get clobbered in 88. So I do think the Democratic makeup of their more likely voter automatically puts them at advantage to overperform in the midterms. It's why even in a bad midterm year like 22 was, they didn't get clobbered the way that an out party gets clobbered or an in party gets clobbered, simply because more of their voters are more regular voters. No, I think that the party still has a problem. And until it, in fairness to the party on this one, neither Virginia nor New Jersey is a huge, it had a rural vote that the candidate had to make an effort in. That's not going to be the case in trying to win an election in North Carolina. That's not going to be the case in trying to win in Ohio. That's not going to be the case in trying to win in Iowa or Alaska or Kansas or Mississippi or even Texas. You can't win Texas just by winning the cities. Beto O'Rourke came close, but he couldn't do it. He won all the cities, and he won all the big media markets, but he couldn't. He got killed in the exurbs and the rural voters. So, yeah, I don't think they've solved any of their problems on that front. And I still think the Democrats are, they have to be seen as a stronger party. Strength, and I know that's a elusive word, but I think strength's a big thing with this voting group if they're going to try to reconnect back with them. And the economy will be an entree. It's not lost on me. If you think about it, the last 4 Democratic presidents in my lifetime who've won, all won during an economic downturn. It's possible that Democrats are just, in my lifetime have culturally been on the wrong side of where the country is, and Republicans have culturally been on the right side where the country is, but that Democrats win when the economy's in the tank. It was true in 76. It's true in 92. And although the economy was recovering by the time Clinton won, but the perception was it was in the tank. It was true in 08. It was true in 20, right? It was certainly virus related, but still it was an economic downturn. Sadly, it may be that there's an economic downturn in 28, and that powers everything. And let me just tell you this: when you have an election that's all about the economy, it suddenly papers over all of your different interest group problems, right? Because everything becomes about that.
There's a reason results matter more than promises. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan has become America's largest injury law firm. For the last 35 years, they've recovered $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. It includes cases where insurance companies offered next to nothing, short of shortchanging, seeing if they could get away with it. And Morgan & Morgan fought back, and they won millions. In Pennsylvania, one client was awarded $26 million. It was a staggering 40 times the amount that the insurance company originally offered. That offer, $650,000, whatever it took to sort of get away without paying. So with more than 1,000 lawyers across the country, Morgan & Morgan knows how to deliver for everyday people. So if you're injured, you're looking for a lawyer, check out forthepeople.com/ToddCast or dial pound law, pound 529 on your cell phone. And remember, all law firms are not the same. So give Morgan & Morgan a look. Their fee is free unless they win.